Afternoon, everybody. This is Hurricane Hal Needham with a brief update on Hurricane Hermine and the surge potential for West Florida. I'm very concerned about surge potential later tonight. I want to talk briefly about how we can expect a rapid, deadly surge in West Florida tonight. So here's Hurricane Hermine. It was designated a hurricane this afternoon. The area that I'm really concerned about here is east of St. Mark's, along Appalachia Bay, down towards Cedar Key, and even down towards Tarpon Springs and Clearwater. This is a GFS model that was run this afternoon. This shows Hermine here at 2 p.m. this afternoon, a strengthening area of low pressure. Hermine is forecast to track up towards Apalachicola and Appalachia Bay. This is for around 8 o'clock Eastern this evening, and then moving in towards after midnight. This would be at 2 a.m. local time Eastern on Friday morning. So a lot of people are looking at this time here, which is around 8 p.m. this evening, and saying, well, you know, this is where we're approaching landfall, where the center of circulation crosses the coast. A lot of times we assume that's where we'll see the strongest winds, maybe the heavy rain, maybe the biggest surge. And so I think a lot of people are expecting the worst conditions to be this evening. However, I'm concerned about what we see here at 2 a.m. Eastern time, and this is where the center of low pressure has actually moved inland up by St. Mark's. And what concerns me is that the winds around a hurricane circulate counterclockwise, and we're going to get this strong west wind here towards places like Cedar Key. That concerns me because this area is very vulnerable to storm surge coming from strong west winds. It also concerns me because this area sees a low tide tonight around 9 o'clock. So right around this time, we have strong south winds coming in, but we have low tides in here. So the storm tides and the storm surges really should have not that much impact. However, as we move into the early morning hours of Friday, we're getting into a high tide here, and this really concerns me that we're going to get strong west winds with a high tide, and I think this could be the time of greatest surge potential, even though it's not the time of the closest approach of the hurricane, if that makes sense. The hurricane, if you will, has actually, is moving away, but we could actually see storm surge levels rising. This is a tide graph for Cedar Key. The blue line here are predicted water levels. So this is if we did not have a storm, just based upon the relationship between the moon and the earth and some other things, we see high tides and low tides. And this is getting into, this is local time. So this is today, September 1st. We had a high tide. This is 1600, so this is 4 p.m. We had a high tide around 3 p.m. this afternoon in Cedar Key. On social media this afternoon, we had some social media blowing up about storm surge and coastal flooding here in the west coast of Florida, and that was because storm surge was pushing in, and we also had a high tide here around, from 2 to 4 p.m. So in this graph, again, the blue are the predicted water levels if we didn't have a storm, the red are the actual water levels. And so when we're out on the landscape, when we're out on the streets or by a bay or something like that, all we see is what's red here. We don't see the blue that's behind it. And so we had a high water level here at around 4 p.m. of around 5.1 feet. Which actually was the 12th highest all-time water level that we've recorded in Cedar Key. And now water levels are dropping. This is not, though, because the storm is letting up. This is because the tidal levels would be dropping anyway. We had high tide around 3 p.m. We're expecting a low tide of around 9 p.m. and then a high tide again around 3 a.m. What concerns me is that even if the winds are picking up, even if the storm is approaching, we're going to see the actual water levels drop this evening down to, I don't know, maybe around 2 feet or something like that. And so we'll still have a storm surge. The difference between red and blue will still be about 4 feet. After we get to around 9 p.m., I'm concerned that people are turning in for the night. They think the impacts were not that great. And we have a 3.5-foot water level rise that's predicted to happen just from the tides, without a storm even, between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. on Friday. And so my concern is that these waters are continuing to build from the storm, and we have a rapid rush of water coming in anyway with the tidal exchange. And so I think the actual water levels here could exceed 6 or 7 feet. This could surprise a lot of people, and what concerns me is that this is happening late at night, getting in from, say, 11 p.m. through about 3 a.m. I think we could see water levels maybe 2 to 3 feet higher than what we saw this afternoon. That may surprise a lot of people, so I'm concerned about people that are on the lower floor of houses, or people that maybe are out driving this evening. They get to a destination and then they're out again, later this evening around midnight, thinking that the roads are clear. It's hard to see high water on a road, and I'm concerned for people that get trapped later tonight when these waters rapidly come in. Incidentally, Hermine will be pushing water towards the shore, and at the same time, tides will be coming in. So expect really steep slope here of this actual water level that could surprise a lot of people. A strong west wind concerns me for the west coast of Florida because unlike other areas of the Gulf Coast, this area is actually very susceptible to storm surge from strong west winds. Most areas of the Gulf Coast have seen their highest all-time water level from tropical cyclones, so hurricanes and tropical storms. The west coast of Florida, though, it's a different game. This is a map of the storm surge that was produced from this superstorm in March of 1993. You may remember this was a blizzard that moved up the East Coast. Well, on the back end of this, we had some tornadoes in Florida, but behind that, we had strong west winds that blew across the Gulf and produced very high water levels. We saw 12 feet of storm surge in Pine Island, 9.5 feet in Cedar Key, and even moving up towards Appalachia Bay and up towards the St. Mark's area, we saw over 11 feet of storm surge. So Hermine is very different than this. We don't have a long fetch or as much straight line winds blowing across the Gulf as we did in 1993. However, this is just an example to show that when we get a prolonged west wind, we can push a lot of water into these communities. So this is unlike other areas of the Gulf where usually a west wind will actually push water away. So this concerns me. If you're interested to follow this water level and follow this in a climatological context, you can go to the USurge website that I've been talking about, and this actually shows the water level for Hermine. The highest water level we've had is 5.1 feet so far, and I really think we could see a water level getting up to 7 feet or even slightly higher than that, which would be the fourth highest water level all time at Cedar Key. Now, this is just plotting out tropical storm surges, so this is plotting from 1880 to present, and this is the water level here. We did not plot out the water level for March of 1993 because it was non-tropical. But that would be up in here, it's 9.5 feet. And Hermine, I really think, can be the highest storm surge event since March of 93. So this should be the highest surge event in 23 years for a lot of these Gulf Coast communities north of Tampa. So very concerned about that. And again, watch out for this tonight, moving in after 11 p.m. into about 3 a.m. I think we could see water levels getting up here over 6-7 feet, which could surprise a lot of people. So stay safe, watch out for this surge later tonight, and feel free to contact me. Again, I usually go by Hurricane Hal. You can send me an email at hal.needham@galvestonhistory.org or hal@marineweatherandclimate.com. You can find me on Facebook by just looking for Hal Needham, or look for me on Twitter at Hal_Needham. So stay safe, take care. Hopefully it's an interesting storm, but there's no loss of life, I'm hoping, and hopefully we can make it through tonight with minimal damage and we can stay safe. So take care, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.